We have Siddharth Zarabi joining us, Managing Editor, Business Today. Siddharth, this is huge. We are looking at the biggest tariff war that the world has ever seen. And now the US president has announced 125% tariff on Chinese goods.
Well, the real key takeaway at this point of time is that Donald Trump has buckled down to what has been happening to the American economy, the massive rise in costs, the consequent inflationary spiral that would be witnessed, the demands from literally hundreds of top economists, business leaders, and other authorities in the United States who have beseeched President Trump that 90 days is the minimum time that should be given for the trade negotiations to come through properly. This pause, therefore, means that the carnage that we have been witnessing in the American markets and globally will come to a stop. We can already see live data from the markets where we can see that the Dow Jones index, one of the key stock market index, is up 6%. This is not the first time that this news has come out. This news had also come out around 48 hours ago, but then the White House subsequently denied that. But with this pause, the most significant thing is that Donald Trump has paused his battle against the world, but he is continuing his battle with China. And instead of 104%, this is the third hike that he has announced, taking the overall duty against China to as much as 125%. This 125% increase happens on account of the fact that China has retaliated earlier and imposed the 84% duty on US imports. So there is a trade war that is underway. Make no mistake, that has not been paused. But instead of Trump fighting with the world, he is now restricted the fight temporarily for a 3-month period with only China. So
that's a very interesting... Right, Siddharth, very interestingly put. Let's just put it in perspective for our viewers as well. Two-pronged approach over here. One is that he is now singularly going to be focused on fighting China. And secondly, to have a hiatus, a pause for all the other countries when it comes to tariffs. Because, Siddharth, Donald Trump cannot absorb the losses that US is suffering or could suffer should he take the entire world on.
Well, the losses are actually coming home to small businesses in the United States, and they are also coming home to buyers in the United States. There is a very, very viral story that is underway, and that is in fact been done exclusively by the New York Post and then was carried by Fox News of all platforms. And that story is of a small business owner who was paying $26,000 on tariffs, and on account of what has happened, that went up to almost $346,000. And basically, that business, and God knows how many other businesses, will not be able to pass on these costs to consumers. A lot of people have gone and pointed out that there is a fallacy in belief in the United States in certain sections which believes that foreign governments and nations will pay these taxes. The way trade works is that the buyer of the good from any other country bears the cost of the duties levied and passes them on to his or her consumer. That is a fundamental truth of the way global trade works, whether you import a screw or whether you import a aircraft. And that reality has hit home. So obviously, I repeat this point, Peter Navarro and his theories of the trade gap between two nations being closed with a blunt instrument of customs duties is an untested theory, which for now Trump seems to have taken pause on.
Right, Siddharth, we also have Karishma Asudani, but before I go to her, just one clarification. by the end of the post that he's put out, he says a 90-day pause and substantially lowered reciprocal tariff during this period of 10% also effective immediately. So are we to understand the slabs have gone, but the 10% baseline remains?
So the 10% tariff was the first slab, and this slab was to kick in the interim while trade negotiations happen.
Yeah, on the 2nd of April.
The next slab kicked in because trade negotiations didn't happen, and obviously they couldn't have happened in a matter of days. So what the tweet makes it clear is 10% is here to stay. But for example, in India's case, it is no longer 26%. For now, it is just 10%. But the other two slabs, barring China, have been put on pause. So 10% remains. The rest has been put on pause, except for China, which instead has been hit with another increase of almost 21%, taking the total duty to 125%.
Right.